Welcome to Yacht Femme, where we talk about the women that make the yachting industry. I'm your host, Andrea Tagliaferro. Learn who they are, how they got into yachting, and what they do today.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yacht Femme. I am thrilled to be here sitting with Ana Čalić. She's actually another podcast. She has her own podcast, also highlighting women in the industry, and she has tons of amazing initiatives that we will dive into. But before we do, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of her.
Meet Ana Čalić, Chief Commercial Officer at Navela and founder of Women in Nautica. Ana is a boating industry specialist who's passionate about sustainability, diversity, and innovation. With a master's degree in energy and sustainability from VU Amsterdam, she works to empower the industry through cutting-edge solutions, conferences, and global initiatives.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm honored and I'm so excited for our conversation.
Me too. I'm so happy that we could make this happen, especially before the boat show season ramps up in a few weeks. So yeah.
Exactly.
Excited, nervous, and all at the same time. But let's dive in. So you grew up surrounded by boats and the family business. What are some of your earliest memories of being part of Navela, and how did that shape your passion for the industry?
Well, I think the number one memory is boat shows. So I remember myself, I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and it was a regional boat show in Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. And my family would always set up the boating equipment part. We would have a large life raft, which was fully inflated. And I would spend probably hours playing inside that life raft. So I was the number one safety equipment ambassador on the boat show because I was small. I would just like take my toys to the life raft and play. And there was also a simulation of a manual bilge pump and how it works. So I was also, quote unquote, working on this manual bilge pump and showing to visitors and attendees how to use one. So these are maybe two of my most fun and favorite memories from boat shows. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I like them so much, why I like being on the field.
Well, they put you to work at an early age. I think people don't understand this is a fun memory, but she was already working at 4 years old. Mom, what were you doing there? And but for those that are not familiar with Navela, can you tell us what does the company do?
Yes, so the company has been founded by my mother back in 1992, and we're the distributors for Yanmar marine engines for the whole Eastern Adriatic coast. So we don't cover only Croatia, we also do Slovenia, Montenegro, Serbia, and Albania. And apart from the marine engines and, of course, their spare parts, we also do several boating equipment brands like Plastimo, Goyo, Vetus, Andersen, and Flexifold. And what we do is we collaborate with all industry stakeholders. So whoever needs us as a supplier, from boat builders, refit shipyards, charter companies, individual clients, boat dealers, and of course we tend to operate as globally as we can. So in short, that's what we do. We don't do servicing, but we do have our certified service network, which is across 30 different spots from Slovenia, Croatia to Montenegro.
And aside from that, she is, like we mentioned, the founder of Women in Nautica. So for those living under a rock, can you tell us what is Women in Nautica?
Yes, so Women in Nautica is the leading inclusivity initiative in the boating industry that tends to focus on the positive experience and the knowledge of leaders in the industry. And through their experience, we are empowering not only young people, but also all other professionals to excel and network in the boating industry. It's not a discriminatory initiative because we also believe that we need any gender and just transparent, open communication and collaboration to excel. So it's an overall empowering initiative. And maybe to give you a bit of an insight how it started and why it actually got to the name of Women in Nautica. So after I finished my studies and started working fully in the family company, I started this club of young business professionals in the boating industry in Croatia. And I was also doing on during regional boat shows a bit of events, networking, educational presentations. We would also call students in to do some networking. And during the time, what I really saw that this community segment was mostly visited and mostly cherished by women. So, okay, we had guys in the club, but women were the ones who really wanted to make a community effort and join such an initiative. So after a certain time, we reshifted all of our focus on women in Nautica. So that's how we started last year with the conference in Zagreb in October, after which we started the podcast to keep the inclusivity initiative alive. And this year, we're happy to announce that we collaborate with Medstrade, just like Yacht Femme, and that we will be bringing the conference to Medstrade on the 19th of November.
Oh, amazing initiatives! I was very excited last year to find out because it's really what I also see the vision growing on education, empowering women. And I am so excited that this year I get to attend. We'll be under the same roof at Medstrade. So thank you. Big shout out to you guys for recognizing these amazing initiatives and allows me in sharing your space with us. But let's jump back into you and your professional development. So you literally grew up in yachting. 4 to 5 years old, we just mentioned, even attending boat shows as a child. And what point did you decide that this was your career, not just your family business?
I would think the major turn point for me would be during my studies. So I first did a bachelor in chemistry. And after doing 3 years of chemistry, I realized, okay, maybe working in a lab 8 hours per day is really not something I would like to do. I'm still very grateful for the experience, though, because it really gave me this scientific background that contributed a lot to my logical thinking and how I just conclude about the world around us. And after that, I decided to do an interdisciplinary master thesis in Amsterdam that covered both business and science and innovation. And through my studies, I did a lot of case studies, a lot of seminars on different topics. And for instance, a lot of my colleagues went to work in a consultancy in large corporates. And this was maybe a too strict division for me. I didn't see myself as a consultant either. And at the time being, I was also doing the digital marketing segment for Navela, although I was living abroad. And as time progressed, I started writing my master thesis on the development of hybrid marine engines, which is, of course, very closely linked to the family business. And with time, we got to COVID era. And of course, studying abroad wasn't the best and the most comfortable thing. We had lockdowns, etc. So I spent some time at home and also working on several projects in the family company. And I really liked it. I liked the field, I liked the market, and I just felt this natural pull to go back to what my family is doing. In general, they never pushed me to do anything company related. I had my arms free to explore and do whatever I like, but I'm very happy I made a full circle back. I think it's really useful if, I mean, wherever you grow up, just to have an international experience, whether you're going to live abroad for a few years or just study. I think it helps you shape yourself as an individual. But then, yeah, at a certain point, it was time to get back to my roots.
I do think any international experience definitely helps. It's great that you found out that that was not your calling when you were studying. In my case, when I studied architecture, I loved the study of it, but afterwards, I wanted something that changed a little bit more rapidly. But yeah, it was great that you were able to make those all those decisions, especially throwing in the pandemic, throw in some twists of like not being able to live abroad. So some decisions were yours, some not. But it's great that you came full circle and you're making such a mark in the industry for the better. Can you tell us also about your role there? So your role in Navela touches on everything from marketing to innovation. What part of the job energizes you the most, and what has been the steepest learning curve?
So I would say the steepest learning curve for me was understanding how businesses work in general and how the purchasing and supply and demand trends work in the industry and how that impacts us how we do business. Because after I finished my studies, I was like, okay, I'm like eager to learn. I know everything. Like in 1 year, I will know everything. I will understand how the whole company functions. I will understand how to progress, how to excel, and I'm ready to be the biggest CEO of the world in 1 year. And fast forward now, almost 5 years, I still don't know everything. And I just realized that every year you learn a lot of new things because you need to tackle multiple things. You need to go on boat shows, you need to talk to clients, you need to see which processes you're going to optimize, then adjust your sales strategy. So you're doing a lot of these things. And of course, if you focused only on one thing, it would be easy to hit the target, but there's a bunch of things to do. So the biggest learning curve for me is the learning curve itself. And what energizes me most is creating content with impact and campaigns with impact that really get to our end customers, but also just spending time on boat shows where you're out on the field, you feel the sea breeze, you're sitting on a boat, you're talking to your client or your partner or just a friend in the industry, and you're seizing what the industry in general is.
You also, aside from the sea breeze, you also are flush with all these new ideas that other people are working on. So, like you're saying, adjusting your sales strategy to not only what you thought, but what other people are doing, and just learning everything at the same time. I find the boat show so powerful, personally. Um, you have said multiple times that you do work for the family business, so that can be both inspiring and challenging for some, maybe not for you. How do you balance tradition and innovation at Navela?
Well, there's this saying that gold plus old is young plus old equals gold. That's the equation. And I
Mm.
think that really is the truth because I don't have the experience, of course, that my mother has because 5 years versus 34 years, it's a large gap. And I think it's really important to admit what you do know and what you don't know. So I can say I'm super digitally savvy. I'm learning fast. I'm very adaptable. I can speak to a lot of people and just like extract the correct information that I need at the time. While my mom, of course, has the experience. She set up the company. She knows the basics and some of the basis, and also some older contacts because in this industry, as it is a male dominated industry, of course, there are still some people who would rather talk to her than to me. And that's also a mini challenge to face, but as long as you're not taking it personally, it's okay. So yeah, I think older generations need to admit that there are some things which they're not excelling at, and also younger generations need to admit that their lack of experience is not helping them in some decision making. But as long as you find a common ground or at least try to understand each other, I think that's a good call.
Um, I know you sort of like breezed by this, but when you said like to talk to people and engage and understand them, um, how many languages are you doing this in? How many languages do you speak?
Oh, a lot. So Croatian, of course, is my native. English, Italian, German, a bit of Dutch, and I do understand quite some French, but speaking is not my forte, and also listening in real life is not my forte because a lot of French people are speaking very fast. So then I just don't have as much experience to understanding everything people are saying. And my latest challenge is Mandarin, which I've been studying now for a month and a half. So far, so good. Very complex, but I'm happy that I started this like before the boat show season when I, let's say, quote unquote, have some time for this.
Wow, wow, why Mandarin? Just, yes, tell me more.
So I think the industry and the economy is progressing very fast, and personally, I have a very big fascination with whole of Asia and different cultures that can be found in Asia, different countries and their histories, and I think this will be a useful tool for the future as well.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be useful for us. It's been useful for everybody for a very long time, and definitely the shifts we're seeing. I think you're on the right path, but good for you for taking that on. I will be just what is it? having consultants like you helping me along the way. So thank you for taking this on for us. Uh, let's go back to Women in Nautica. So launching Women in Nautica has been a huge milestone. You already shared what sparked the idea, and but can you tell us more about, let's say, last year and this year? Last year was your first. How did that I don't know, what was the feedback? How did it actually go? Are you making any adjustments for this year, the second edition?
Yes, so last year, okay, it was the first year, and it was very special because anything which you're doing for the first time feels special. I just remember waking up very early that day and going to the gym like before breakfast just so I can like clear my mind a bit and like have my thoughts straight for the day. Okay, so today we're going to do this, and the day is going to look like this. And it was a very special feeling, and I was happy with the feedback that I got because people were very attentive. They were listening to the topics and the speakers, which gives us feedback that really the choice of speakers was great, but also that people found the topics relevant for their day to day business. What is also interesting is that I got feedback from several people that they either met a colleague or that they found their future employer, which is also great because they found a new place to work in. And actually, yesterday, I got contact from a student who was volunteering at the conference, and she told me that she's been thinking of joining the boating industry. She's not sure yet in what way, but she said, "Yeah, I was very hesitant on reaching out to you for quite some time, but like, you really inspired me, and I do want to learn more about the boating industry. And this is all like we want to do because I don't think it's only in Croatia, but in general, it's the bias that boating industry equals cargo shipping or large boats or just
Oh,
working on board. And we are really trying to change this narrative and also show people that basically any type of background you have, you can work in boating or yachting. I mean, if you do finance, of course, you can find a job in this industry. If you do social media, content creation, purchasing, engineering, so basically any theoretical background can find their way in this industry. So that's a bit of the feedback of the conference. And when it comes to last year's format versus this one, this year it's a bit shorter because, of course, it's hosted during Mets Trade. Mets, the formal part is only 3 days, and that's always a very busy time. So we want to also give people time to go back to their meetings and their networking. So it will be a half-day conference, but it will still be quite packed. I'm actually a bit sad that it's not a full day one because I would like to have more space for panel discussions and presentations, but we'll leave that then for 2026. You can have everything in one. And so last year we had three presentations and three panel discussions. This year it will be three presentations and one panel discussion. So just to make most of the time and cover all the topics which we want to have. What's the same is that we're covering burning topics from sustainability, sales trends, finance, safety in maritime. So we have dedicated speakers from every segment, so every stakeholder that goes to the conference can have some benefit from it. And yeah, I think that covers most of your question.
yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah, the changing format, understanding there's going to be the presentations and the panels. I didn't know what was the schedule yet, but I'm excited to see every time you announce a new speaker. I immediately, when I get those emails, Google who they are and what is going to be the angle for the topic. So I'm actually very excited for this. So, what are you seeing changes in the industry coming in? You are definitely at the forefront of new trends, especially when you're doing these forums that you're doing all these investigation of what you see now or what other fields are doing. So where do you see those shifts going? And is anything worrying about you on the path that we're taking?
So, what I see as the biggest change in this year specifically, this is a trend I've been listening to and seeing in different boat shows, and something I heard in different conversations basically from January, is the fact that ownership in the industry is decreasing. And that, of course, changes the business model of a lot of people. So, not many people are looking to own a boat per se. And here grows the importance of charter companies and boat clubs, and this opens furthermore where these charter companies and boat clubs are going to be located, how are they going to work, what kind of model are they having in maybe already saturated markets such as Europe and the US? Are they going to go somewhere abroad? How is the Eastern Asian segment and Australia looking at these opportunities? So the biggest trend would be then the change of ownership, and of course this is followed by sustainability. So how will all of these trends in the industry follow sustainable development, both when it comes to vessels, propulsion, and marina infrastructure that is sustainable?
Okay. Is any of that worrying you? Not really. You're just seeing how you pivot, or
I mean, in general, it is worrying me in the impact it will have on our environment. So what I really don't like to see is sometimes we see boaters who are chartering a boat. They're not chartering it because they're the usual sailor who likes to experience the wind at the open sea, but they're doing it simply from a cost benefit analysis. So we sometimes
Mhm.
see on the Eastern Adriatic coast people who are boating because it's cheaper for a family of 5, 6 people to rent a boat rather than to go in an apartment or in a hotel. And sometimes this is also linked to people littering and doing damage, of course, to the seabed. And this is something that worries me because the initial thing that attracted people is a nice, clean destination and where nature is preserved. And we really want to keep that. So, this is something that is worrying me because, of course, it's going to have an impact one way or the other. And then, of course, the second thing would be that now we have a sustainable industry, which is pushing sustainable brands and items, competing with the conventional ones. So let's say we have electric propulsion or propulsion that runs on hybrid, competing with diesel or gasoline engines. And having both of these industries is very resource intensive for the earth at the moment and in general. So until what time will we have two industries competing and just using a bunch of resources? When will one or the other prevail? So I think all of my worries are linked around ecological preservation of our planet.
Yeah. So then that leads me into the next question. If you could redesign the future of yachting in a bold way, what would it look like?
Well, it would definitely focus more on renewable materials. It would have infrastructure for recycling of vessels that is very compliant with all the principles of circular economy, which means that it's useful for the environment, useful for society, and useful for sustainability. And it would maybe be a bit more boat ownership, but also private ownership with responsible boating. I think it would all have a very balanced approach, and people would take their responsibilities as boaters and as consumers. So we see that people maybe are not as responsible as they should be nowadays with their purchases. If we're looking at fast fashion, who needs 20 pairs of the same shorts just in different colors, but people sometimes buy it just because it's cheap. And I'm not saying that's the same thing in the boating industry because, of course, it's a very different item. But I think if we focus just a bit more on quality rather than on quantity, we can make our products and our services last longer.
Thank you for that. I want to shift now a little bit more about you. So people get to know you when they see you walking the dogs. How can they connect? So beyond business, what keeps you grounded? Is there a hobby, a ritual, a passion most people maybe wouldn't know about you?
Well, most people, because they don't see my dog on boat shows, maybe don't know that I have a dog, and it's a miniature dachshund. He is 4 years old, and he's my sweetest little baby, and he comes to work with me every day. So he's the he's the business pup of the family. And what keeps me grounded is just having morning walks with him in the morning when it's nice weather outside, and we walk by the sea, and I can think about both my private life and my business life. So, where do I see everything going? Then it's, of course, socializing with friends, reading books, listening to podcasts. and working out. So different types of workouts depending on my mood and my energy, from going to the gym, doing Pilates or yoga, maybe doing some tennis with a friend. So it depends. And then maybe the biggest passion, which I overlooked, is traveling. Of course, apart from the business travel that we do, I really like to explore new places around the world. And I'm trying to do that as much as possible as time and resources permit, just to see as much of the world as possible. Because I mean, when you're looking at any type of travel content, our world is extraordinary. And it would be a shame not to seize the opportunity and catch every part of the world.
Yeah. Anything on the bucket list?
Definitely a tour in South America. South America is a continent I haven't visited yet, so maybe Chile, Peru, Galapagos Islands as well. I've seen really insanely interesting videos from there. Also diving, hiking, everything related to that. So yeah, this would be a new destination that would be on my bucket list. And apart from that, Hmm. Anything in Asia, and Europe is already quite discovered, since when you're in Europe, it's difficult not to visit all the neighboring countries. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing because you have given us a lot to connect with you when we see you at a networking event. So there's no excuses for anyone that actually wants to reach out now. Um, looking back, what lessons did the industry teach you? Maybe that knowing a university degree could have prepared you for. You were saying that yes, you started when you were 4 years old, or even actually prior to that being taken with your mom, even though if you don't remember. But yeah, what advice would you give yourself?
I would give myself the advice to just be very open-minded about a lot of things. So, and to not be scared to ask for opinions, mentorships, and advice in general. It's easy to be overwhelmed with everything nowadays. Also, when you step on social media, you see different influences, both within the industry and outside the industry. So, I think it's fair to say that you just need to be very grounded. Find your passion, pursue it, find people who are doing similar things, ask them for advice, and see how you can find your spot under the sun in the industry. And of course, you can change any day if something is not your cup of tea. Just be open about it with yourself first. So maybe the number one advice actually would be to like cater your needs and your interests first, because that will help you be a better colleague, better collaborator, better partner in the business.
That's great advice. And if you need that moment to actually think and analyze what's going right or wrong, remember, get a dog and go on the walks. And that's do it like Anna, where she
Yeah.
does the
Or
self-reflection.
or book a plane ticket and just go somewhere for a few days.
Well, then that's my way of doing everything. Just like something's going wrong, let's book a ticket. Like just, you know. Well, thank you so much for all this information. I am so happy that we got to connect today. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with? Maybe how do we sign up and get our tickets for Women in Nautica, or even how do we see what boat shows are you going to so we can actually make sure to see you?
Yes, so you can connect with me personally on my personal LinkedIn, which is just Ana Čalić. If you don't have the ticks, the creation ticks on your keyboard, just write Calic. And on Instagram, it's Ana Calic_biz, biz. And in my post from today, I actually wrote on which boat shows you can meet me during this fall. And when it comes to the conference, on Instagram, it's WIN_Women in Nautica. On LinkedIn, it's simply Women in Nautica. And the website is www.womeninnautica.com. And on all of these three sites, you can find your way to register for the regular bird tickets. They are live until the 24th of September, after which we go to late bird. And yeah, if anyone has any questions how they can contribute to the conference, just pop me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn or email me, and I'll be happy to connect.
Well, thank you again. I cannot wait to see you in person really, really soon. It's been almost a year since we met at Net Straight last year.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled we're going to have both of our initiatives soon under the same umbrella. So a lot of exciting things coming ahead. Thank you again, and I'll see you very soon.
Thank you, Andrea. It has been an amazing conversation. See you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to Yacht Femme. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and comment. Your comment will help us reach a broader audience. And don't miss the next episode. Bye!